Okay, here is part 2 of interest groups for AP government. So we're going to start with Madisonian assumptions. So Madison, James Madison, big, father of the Constitution. So his ideas, assumptions, and in how are they connected into interest groups. So first off, you need to understand that people are very self-interested. Like, if it's something that's going to benefit me, then I'm going to want it. And it is hard sometimes for people to be like, I'm not going to get any benefit from this policy or this action, but someone else is, and I should be happy for them. I mean, we're self-interested. So if it's going to benefit us, then we're going to be excited. If not, then we're going to be a little more reluctant to want to support those such a things. So Madisonian assumptions, remember this is Federalist 10, factions, Federalist 10, the IO in factions is 10. So to help you remember that, but factions, he talks about this in Fed 10, that factions are going to happen. They're going to happen in a free society. They're undesirable. We don't necessarily want them, but you can't stop them. If you stop them, then you get rid of liberty and you don't have a free society. So of course he's like, we can't do that. So they're undesirable. So what do we got to do? We've got to learn how to figure out a way to mitigate or reduce the problems of factions. And that is through competition. Ding, 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 competition amongst groups, that's pluralism. So Madisonian thoughts are all about competition between the groups, and because that's how you control them. So government's job when you're dealing with factions is to manage the interplay between those group interests, like trying to help all the groups get something that they want. You can't have everything, but now it's government's job to kind of balance everyone's issues against each other and come up with, something that everyone's kind of agreeable to. But interest groups can be a threat to the American political system because, they're supposed to be competing, but for that to work, they have to be willing to compromise. And a lot of people look at it now and say, so many of our interest groups are not willing to compromise and take some. They want it all, or they don't, or no one's getting anything. If I can't have everything I want, then no one's getting anything. And that would be hyperpluralism. And this was all, Madison laid this out, why we need a lot of factions to help to control them, but a lot of factions can then lead to hyperpluralism. So let's now talk about how these factions, these groups, interest groups, especially on factions, are going to shape public opinion. So first off, we got to know some vocabulary here. So grassroots, when we talk about grassroots, we're talking local or individual level. So anything that is grassroots, you need to think very local level. Now, if we talk grassroots lobbying, that means you're lobbying directly to the public. You're trying to get the public to care about your issue. That then in the turn, as they start to care and show interest, you then direct them to go lobby individually, their lawmakers or an administrative agency or so forth and so on. But you're going to start local and you're going to build this momentum up. They also are going to shape public opinion through the media. In this case, they're also going to shape public opinion through the media. They're going to try to get the media to focus on their issues. I mean, that's what the media is there. So they're going to get people to show interest in these issues so that then the media will focus on it. And that there in turn lets government know, hey, we need to care about this issue. It's now popping up on the news. More and more people are going to start hearing about it if it pops up in the news. They also are going to shape public opinion through opinion leaders. So they have some very well-known people that are going to help shape that policy. What do they say? Oh, and people are going to pay attention to them. So someone the icon John Lewis, who passed away earlier this year, he could make a statement on something and people paid attention. Martin Luther King Jr. would be a public opinion leader, an opinion leader that's going to help shape public policy. or public opinion, excuse me. They're going to do demonstrations. They're going to do protests, to shape public opinion. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? We've seen this side of shaping public opinion in very diverse and very decisive ways with the coronavirus, as well as the Black Lives Matter movement in the spring. Now, let's talk about some things. So they're going to shape public opinion. Well, now let's talk about what they influence. Okay, they influence elections. They're going to do electioneering. So they're going to do campaign ads. Electioneering means they're going to work directly with a candidate. All right. So they're going to have direct involvement in the electoral process. Oh, that's a mouthful. Okay, they're going to fund campaigns. They're going to give money to candidates. They're going to coordinate with candidates. They're going to provide testimony on, various issues, for candidates or on an issue. They're going to find members that'll go work for and volunteer for different candidates to show support and help drum up that support. So that's their influencing the election. Okay, so the definition is they are direct involvement in the electoral process. Anything that's a direct involvement. PACs, they're going to create PACs, so political action committees. And sometimes these are connected to candidates and sometimes they're not. There are also sometimes what's called aligned and non-aligned PACs. If there's an aligned or a connected PAC, then they are connected to like a labor union or a trade association or a business. So they've been created for those, and those employees or members of those groups are the ones who are funding that PAC. They're the only ones who can give money. Okay, and then they in turn use that money to do electioneering because they can be coordinated with the candidate. Now, a non-aligned PAC are not connected to a business, labor union, or a trade association. Anyone can be involved in this PAC. Anyone can give money to it, but they have to pay for themselves. Like aligned PAC, since they're tied into a business, the business could give some profits into the PAC to help fund it. Typically a non-aligned or non-connected PAC are going to be focusing on like single issues. And that's what they're going to promote, but they will be in support or against certain candidates. Then you got your 527s. This is an IRS. This is solely issue focused. Okay, they cannot connect with a candidate. They cannot, advocate for a candidate. I mean, they can. They're going to try to influence policy. They're going to influence the election by showing how a candidate either supports or doesn't support the issue that is important to them. And 527s can use all of their money donated because they are a political group. You then have super PACs. So they're going to so interest groups are going to use super PACs. Okay. And notice so super PACs are not connected to a candidate. They cannot work with a candidate, but they can directly say they support or do not support a certain candidate. But they have to focus, a 527 and a super PAC have to focus on issues. But a super PAC can show a connection, a support for or against a candidate. Now notice which, campaign finance is not on here, and that is a 501c4. Those are nonprofit groups that, they are their own entity. They're not attached to like a business or an interest group. So it's kind of their own entity, and therefore interest groups aren't going to be using them to influence elections. They also are going to be very involved in voter mobilization, just encouraging people to vote. So if you've got an aligned PAC with your business or your trade group or your labor union, they're going to help people get registered, know where to go vote, how to go vote, know what their rights are of getting, time off on election day to go vote. But they are going to ensure, and honestly, just having their employer encourage you just to go vote, not telling you who to vote for, but just having your employer encourage you to go vote and just talk about how that is, such the American thing, then more people actually end up voting. Okay, so let's talk about PACs. So PACs are political action committees. They can be connected, non-connected, but they are can oof. So they have PAC expenditures. So they are going to be doing things to help a candidate because they are connected to the candidate. Okay, so when we talk about expenditures, they're spending money and they're spending money to help a candidate out. They can do ads, they can do TV ads, newspaper ads, they can run ads in, phone games, all of that stuff. They can hold rallies, those sorts of things. All of that is expenditures, and they get to do that because they're coordinated. They can coordinate. Now, they have to deal in this expenditures. They only can have hard money. People are limited. That's the reason it's hard money, limited in the amount of money that they can donate. But PACs can then turn around and donate money to a candidate. But then again, it's also hard money. They're limited in how much they can give to a candidate or a political party. And then, so typically you're going to see PACs associated with congressional candidates rather than presidential candidates. Just because of that limit, it's easier to get people to donate into a PAC for a congressional candidate because you're going to be looking at one single person in a much smaller area. And it's cheaper. Typically, you're going to have PACs that are for incumbents versus over the challengers. PACs are going to be generated with an incumbent. They know what they're getting with the incumbent. They know how that incumbent works. They know how, and so these PACs can be for and against a candidate. So, but typically, you're going to see a lot more PACs are for incumbents versus challengers. Then you've got super PACs. Super PACs are not connected to the candidate, but they have unlimited amounts. Whoops, going too fast. People can donate unlimited amounts, but they cannot connect with a candidate. It's only issue advocacy. All right, so now let's talk about how they influence policymaking with Congress. So first off, contributions, like a lot of people like to say that interest groups and the money they donate into a candidate is bribery. No, interest groups will tell you, any lobbyist will tell you, no, the money we generate and we get donated into a candidate's campaign is not for bribery, it's for access. The more money I can generate as a lobbyist for a candidate, the more likely I am when I call that candidate, they're willing to pick up the phone and talk to me. They're willing to meet me for drinks or for a luncheon and talk policy shop. If I don't generate a lot of money for their campaigns, there's less likely that they're going to listen to me, and that means I have less chance to influence my policy that I want and ensure that they're going to do, they're voting or, they hear my side at least. You're going to build trust and you're going to provide information. Here's the thing. Congressional members, they have to know, they have so many different bills that are coming up. It's not like they're only looking at 5 bills in a given year. We're talking hundreds of bills, and they can't know everything about every single bill. So if you have a interest group that has helped you, that is, and there's this issue that there's a bill that pertains to their issue, you can reach out to them. You can have your staffer reach out to them. Most likely they're already reaching out to you, and they can provide you with information to help you figure out how you should vote on something. And you build that trust, because the moment the lobbyist lies, they're done. They will never get another chance to work with somebody in Congress. All right. So effective lobbyists don't lie. They don't. They're going to tell you straight, like, here's how it's working. All right. So, they don't. But here's the other thing. Lobbyists must register with government as a lobbyist. All right. If they do so much money, if they, spend so much time, then they have to register. It's like over 20%. But if it's under 20%, they don't have to register. And a lot of lobbyists will keep that under 20% in money and or time. But they can't lie. But they got to register. All right, so this is going to wrap up part 2. We're going to do the next part 3. We're going to continue with how they're going to influence the policymaking through the other branches and parts of government, and also discuss what an iron triangle is.